teacher. Why you becoming a teacher? There ain't no money in education. There ain't no money in being a teacher. Them kids are bad. You da 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 da. You know why you being a teacher? They ain't gonna respect the black male educator. No, they are, and I'm gonna be a great teacher. And I don't need your approval. This thing is so powerful, y'all. You gotta really start. You really gotta start saying, "Hey, I don't need your approval. I don't even need your opinion, actually. I don't even need to tell you. Some stuff I'm telling you out of courtesy. But if I want to move and do this, I don't need no one else approval because I know who I am. I don't need your validation. Uh-oh. One. What's up, family? It is your boy. It is your preacher, and I hope by now I am your favorite podcast host. Ooh, the crowd goes wild. The crowd goes wild. We are back here with another episode of Legacy Builders Podcast. And I want to start off with this. Have you ever stopped and truly asked yourself how much of who I am is actually me? And how much it is what other people told me I should be? And so today's podcast is about becoming the kind of person who leaves a lasting impacts in your family, your career, relationships, and next generation. But before you can ever build a legacy, you have to know who you are. And from there, today's question is very simple, but it has power to change everything in your life. Who told you that? Who told you that? And so when we think about this thing called identity isn't something we suddenly discover when we become adults, when we get older. When our identity is often shaped over years. Your identity is often shaped by family, by teachers, by environments, by friends, by culture norms or culture disnorm success, and really is about failures. We can identify part of your journey sometimes by how you handle situations, how you handle different situations, how you handle these situations. Sometimes we can identify you or closely relate to you by your family. Look, I look, people say I get a mixed reaction. People say that I look like mama, or either people say I look like my daddy. And sometimes what I say can be said. Sometimes the way I talk, if you ever met me in person, people know I'm from Charleston. Everybody asks me that when I live in Greenville, and so when they ask me that, they be like, "Hey, you from Charleston?" I'm like, "Yeah." He was like, and they be like, "Oh, you have an accent." Now, to me, I don't think I have an accent, but I can't hear me. You know what I mean? And so they can be like, "Oh yeah, you from Charleston." Also, sometimes I'll catch myself because I'll start thinking or I'll start talking in the way of my granddad. I'm very close to my grandparents. So sometimes I'll catch myself. I'm like, dang, this is something my granddad would do. Or this is something my granny would do. Or this is something my mom, my dad, this is something they would do. Or this is something, there goes those presidents. And so your identity is shaped by the family members, the teachers. You teachers, for my teachers who are listening, we're gonna have a podcast episode in about 2 weeks about this. But teachers, you don't know how much you shape an identity, how you can create, and how sometimes you can destroy an identity. Our friends, you are who you hang around. That's another episode. This thing be peeping in there. All right, and then your success and your failures. Now, many of us, we tie our identity only into if we are successful and only if we fail. So there are people who only think their identity lies in that successful or in that failure mindset. And so many of us truth be told, many of us are still carrying the opinions that were spoken to us years ago and spoken to us over us years ago. So, example, you can hear something like "you too quiet," or for sometimes you've heard "you're not leadership material." Or you heard "you're not smart enough." Oh, you'll never make it. Oh, you're the responsible one. Oh, you're the funny one. Oh, you're the mother of the group. You're the friend, dad, father of the group. Oh, you're the one. Oh, you so and so child, or you so and so. And so here it is. I really in life, I really said in life, I hated to be compared to people. That is still one of my biggest pet peeves. Don't compare me. And so I tell the story a lot. Was a football player. My uncle was a successful football player. And so, he was older than me. And so, and then I had another uncle who played basketball. And so everybody was expecting you to be great like them. So here it is. I really didn't like sports like that growing up, per se. Like, I wasn't in love with it. But once I found the love for football, I never wanted to be compared to somebody. They would be like, "Oh, you so and so nephew." Yeah, but I'm also me. And so my granny had this bad thing. She'll call us, as all of us is Jamil, Jaheem. So she'll call us in the random. And growing up, I used to hate that because I'm Jaheem. I'm Jaheim. And so many of us, we've let other people's label on us stop us from really knowing who our identity is. So here it is. Some of you think that you're only an athlete. And so that's what you think, that I gotta make it to the NBA. If I don't make it to the NBA, if I don't make it to the NFL, I'm not successful. Here it is. Some of you who parents have gone to college, you got two parents that go to college, a family that go to college, and so you in your mind, you think that going to college is going to make me successful. Some of us who have D9 Greek affiliations in our family, and so some of us have measured success to and our identities to, oh, if I don't become so and so, if I don't get in this organization, then I don't feel like I have an identity. And so some of us are carrying that because of what other people projections. How many of you are still living in what other people projections? So you think that because your mama said you would make a good doctor, you felt like that's the only way you would be. You felt like if your mama say this, or if your daddy said that, or if your friends say this, or if your teachers told you that, or if your coaches told you that. Sometimes we have to have a lens and a filter in our ears. Because if we don't have a filter in our ears, we'll let what other people say about us control our destiny. We'll let what other people speak over our lives control our destiny. We'll let what other people say, or what other people try to prophesy, or what other people try to speak over our life. We will consume that, and we will think that that's our only identity. Can I tell you this? I'm a teacher. I'm a preacher. I'm a friend. I'm a brother. I'm a son. I'm a teacher. Here it is. But all of those encompass just one thing, Jaheim. And here it is. I had to learn that I had to have balance in my life. Here's goes that bad word in some of us. We have to have balance in our life, because here it is. If I fall too into the teacher role, I don't have a life. If I fall into the son role, here it is. If you dip 200% in so much role, you start to think that that's your only identity. And so how labels can become scripts, our life scripts, if we never question it. See, one of my biggest moment was in my senior year of high school. And I was a good football player. People, you may look at me and be like, "Oh, no, I was good. I was pretty good." And I knew my junior year, I was like, I watched my uncle play at Auburn and at Illinois, and I was just like, okay, I was like, I've done the football thing from third grade to 12th grade. I was like, I want to try something different. I want to try something different. And so what I did was I said to my family, I was like, you know, I'm not gonna play college football. I'm not gonna pursue that because I want to pursue something different. And so for a while, that was like a culture shock to them. Like it was crazy. And I want, and I felt like and this is me, and they'll be watching this soon. They'll probably think that. But this is what I felt. I felt like they think that I could only be a football player. That to ways to succeed in life. Now, the game of football has taught me many lessons, but I just knew that I wanted to dig into different things of my identity. And and from there I started to grow. I started to learn what is life outside of football, outside of being an athlete 24/7. But here's the thing, the lessons that I've learned being a football player, I still can apply it to anything I go, but I know that I'm not just a football player. And so you have to ask yourself, what are people saying of you? No, you're not. No, you don't always have to be the ghetto one. No, you don't always have to be the one that's always drunk. No, you don't always have to be the one that party started. That may be part of your personality, but that's not what you are. And so, what's one thing that someone told you growing up that still affects how you see today? What is one thing that you play in your mind that you secretly battle every day? You be like, no, 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 I'm not this. No, no, I'm not that. No, and that here it is. I don't know about you, but there's one thing that I replay in my mind that keeps me motivated to be better and not stagnant. So you have to learn how to reframe these things and reframe what people have been speaking over your life. And so here it is. Today, we don't just hear the voices in the person. We carry thousands of opinions in our pockets. Because here it is, social media constantly tells us this: what successful people look like, what our bodies should look like, what our relationships should look like, what careers should look like, and how quickly life should happen. And so here it is. You have people in this generation, no matter young or old, who are trying to measure their level of success to someone who's light years ahead of them. And so what we'll do is we'll scroll, and we could be living in our own success. We could be building our own success, and we are never satisfied, not because we're hungry. I'm never satisfied because I'm hungry. No, we're never satisfied because some of us are too busy measuring ourselves to other people. So we're measuring our chapter 5 to somebody's chapter 50. And that becomes the danger, because now we can't even live and enjoy our own success because we too busy trying to compare ourselves to somebody else. All right, here's one thing I live in. We look to social media sometimes for what our bodies should look like. And I'm a living witness to that. I've dealt with that, where I was like, I used to be this. Now I'm this. And 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 you realize, you comparing your body to somebody else. You comparing, like, dang, what are they doing? But I had to tell myself, what they're doing is what I'm not doing. They're working. And here it is. It is not going to happen overnight, because here it is. My mama said this all the time. Social media they will only show you the pretty parts. Now there's some, and I'm always have much respect for those people. There's some that are going to show you their whole process. There's some that are going to show you the beginning and then leave for a while, and then now they're living in their better place, and now they're going to do. All right, so then we compare what our careers are like. We think that we should have this much money at this age of life. Look, you know what I used to do? The old folks used to say, you ever want to make God laugh? Tell him your plans. I was like, huh? What? So yeah, tell them your plans. And so we're trying to be rich by 30, have the wife and kids by this, you know what I mean? And so we measure ourselves over how life should happen quickly. And so here it is. We have there's a thing that I want to talk about. It is there's a difference between inspiration and comparison. I tell this all the time. There's a many people that I look up to. Point of View podcast. He's doing it, man. He's doing it, and I look up to him, and I'm inspired by his podcast. But I don't compare myself because his process and my process of life are totally different. Here it is. Here it is. I see, and many people know I'm a preacher, and there are young preachers who God is using in this season. I'm inspired not because of their engagement. I'm inspired because God trusts them enough. I'm not going to compare myself. I'm not going engagement for engagement. Here it is. Teachers. There are a lot of young male teachers, young Black African American men, women, leaders that are becoming principals at a young age, assistant principals, district leaders, and I'm inspired by them. I am. I reach out to them for strategies, like how did you do this, how did you do that, like learning from them, tweaking what they did to how does it fit in my life. But I'm not comparing myself. And that is the beauty of life. You got to stop comparing yourself. Who told you that? You got to stop comparing yourself. I'm telling you that right here. You got to stop comparing yourself. You can be inspired by somebody, but you got to go make it your own. Because here it is. We have in the society a fear of missing out. So we always got to feel like we got to be up. Oh, I gotta have the latest thing. I gotta have the most likes on Instagram. I gotta do this. I gotta do that. And here it is. You too busy trying to keep up with the Joneses. Now you in more debt. You got a different relationship every week. You da 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 da. And then that is truly how you get behind, because you are not living in your grace and in your means. So we get validation through likes. And I used to be like that. Like, I used to post on Instagram. I'd be like, dang, boy, does this not mean this picture is not good? Does this mean I don't look good? Why am I only getting this much like, and my homeboy over here, he getting this likes and he doing this? What is he doing that? And you know what? If you live in that cycle of life for a long time, you'll get bogged down. Then you'll start thinking less of yourself. And I have to realize, what? My name is Jaheim L. President. What? Look, I just posted. Listen how I look at Instagram now. I'm just posting them to give them a glimpse. If they don't like it or not, I know I look good. But it took me a while to realize that and to know that I don't have to hate on somebody. Here it is. I don't have to wish that for their downfall order for me to go up. And many of y'all out here praying for somebody's downfall. Y'all out here praying for somebody to find the latest tea on them so you can spread on them, so you can say, yeah, I told y'all so and so it was great. No, now look at me. Stop that. Stop that. Stop that. You don't gotta hate on nobody else in order to be great. Let me say that again. You don't have to hate. Come here. I wish I had two cameras, but I only got one. Point here. Hey, you don't gotta hate on nobody in order to be great. And so here it is. You start to perform instead of living your life for real. I used to be in that performative crap. And then, you know what? It gets tiring. I'm like, I'm performing with people who either don't like me, who either trying to find dirt on me so they can ruin me, or they're not even paying me no mind, no way. And so you have to see, how often are you comparing yourself to someone else's highlight reels? Ask yourself that. How often do you sit there on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, whatever, trying to compare your life? Look, I look at this stuff as truly entertainment. And here it is. There are seasons that if I feel myself getting back into those type of comparison stuff, because it is inevitable to happen, I said I'd take a break. I said, man, look, I'm off. Bye. Let me go live my life. And maybe that's sometimes what we need to do. We need to take a break and take a break. And so here it is. Here it is. I don't want to talk about this. The voices we choose. So um that we don't control every voice we hear. You are never going to be able to control every voice you hear. You can shut down. Only way you can do that is if you go live in Montana in the woods. And I ain't going to Montana. But think about. I want you to think about this. Who are the 5 people that are influencing you the most in life? I can tell you mine. There are preachers that I listen to that are influencing my walk with Christ. There are my coworkers that have become family. They are like heavy influence on like my family, my real family. God, 5 people. I'm listening to God. But who do you follow online? See, I had to cleanse y'all. I had to cleanse who I follow and who I listen to. um who gets your attention, and here it is, what's draining you of your attention, what's draining you, when you're on the phone with somebody, they're like, and you just sitting there, it's like, I was having a good day until so called me, now I'm drained. All right, who gets your trust? And that one is a big for me because I've grown to be slow for trust, because I have a big heart. I have a big heart. And so sometimes people see your big heart and they take that for advantage. And so now you don't want to, I'm not going to punish. I'm not going to say I'm never going to trust nobody. I'm going to punish the people in my life or the people that to come in my life. But you sometimes got to be slow to trust. So, I have mentors that I look up to. I have different podcasts that I watch. Point of View. You got to go listen to that. That man is talking real life politics. It's just a little, a little shout out, man. He's talking real life, and he inspires me. Not from and not I don't talk to him. We're not like buddies, like close buddies, but like I feel like if I was in a bind with podcasts or just need ideas or strategies, I feel like I reach out to him. There are friendships that help me. Guide me along the way, and family members, and some people are seasonal people and some people are lifetime people, and that's where the trust had. I had to realize who was seasonal, who was lifetime. So people you listen to are quietly building the person you become. So if right now, if you look at you like, if you don't like the person you are right now, look at who is talking over your life and who's listening over your life. And here it is. You, until the day you have a last breath in your body, you always have time to rewrite your internal story. Many adults are living from stories they never choose. Examples: I've always messed up. I'm not creative. They'll say this: I've never been successful. I've always feel overlooked. I'm never going to find love. I'm never going to be in a marriage. I'm never going to have kids, whatever. Where did that story come from? I'm asking you. Then here it is. You have to start replacing assumptions with evidence. And here it is. You got to reframe this thing. You got to say, what, you got to stop asking what's wrong with me and start asking, what strengths have I ignored? And so I want you to practice this. I want you to practice this. I want you to practice this. Create 2 columns. And I want you to say the story, and I want you to do the story I've been telling myself versus the story I want to live. And I'm going to post this on Instagram. It's going to be powerful, but I'm going to do a video about it. But here it is. You got to stop saying the story I want to live versus the story I've been telling myself. Do that. and create those columns. Like, what do you want to live? And then what have I been telling myself of why I can't get there? And so here it is. You got to build confidence, y'all. You got to build confidence without needing the approval of others. Look, I moved up here to Greenville. Everyone was telling me, stay in Charleston. Why you going to Greenville? Stay in Charleston. You know, you can save money in Charleston. You know, our kids need you in Charleston. You know, and I said, no, I'm moving. Why are you moving? Because I want to. Because I want to try new things. People say, why you starting this podcast? Why you spending that money on the likes and the mic and the software? Because I want to. Because I feel like I have a message to share with people. People, this is my favorite one. People, why you becoming a teacher? Why you becoming a teacher? There ain't no money in education. There ain't no money in being a teacher. Them kids are bad. You know, why you being a teacher? They ain't gonna respect the black male educator. No, they are. And I'm gonna be a great teacher. And I don't need your approval. This thing is so powerful, y'all. You gotta really start. You really gotta start saying, "Hey, I don't need your approval. I don't even need your opinion. Actually, I don't even need to tell you some stuff. I'm telling you out of courtesy. But if I want to move and do this, I don't need no one else approval because I know who I am. I don't need your validation. Uh-oh. I'm about to bless you. I don't need your validation. I don't need none of that stuff. Your prayers would be nice. Only if you're gonna pray good, pray that God will be done. But I don't need, I don't need it. And here it is. Whatever you are planning to do next, you don't need their validation. You don't need their sign of approval. No, go build. Because confident people aren't people who never doubt themselves. That's not true. They are people who stop letting other people's opinions make every decision. Here it is. Confident people, they're going to doubt. When you're confident, you're going to doubt yourself. I doubt myself sometimes. But there are people who stop letting other people's opinions decide their next and decide their every move. So know your values, know your worth. Here it is. Listen and start living intentionally. Go live. Go live. And being comfortable disappointing people when it's necessary. You're not going to please. That's one thing. That's one of the biggest lessons I've learned. You're not going to please, and you're not going to please everybody. Because here it is. Somebody, when you go right, some people are going to be happy. Then some people say, why you didn't go left? If you go left, some people say, oh, we happy you went left. The people going to say, why you didn't go right? If you go forward, some people going to say, why you going forward? If you go backwards, somebody going to be mad at one point of the time. No matter who you is just bound to happen. So you don't need everyone's approval to build the meaningful life that you were meant to build. You don't. So this week, I want you to write down 3 labels you accepted about yourself. I want you to write who did these labels come from or where did these labels come from, whether they're actually true or not true, and then one belief you want to replace with them. And so here it is. I'm going to ask you these questions. I'm getting out of here. Who influenced your identity the most? What labels are you ready to let go of? What belief are you about yourself you need to change? Are you living in your truth? Are you living in truth? And what would your life look like if you stopped trying to impress everybody? I think we need to say that one again. What would your life look like if you stopped trying to impress everybody? And whose voice? And so here it is. Your legacy isn't built by becoming who everyone expects you to be. No, never that. It's built by becoming the most true version of yourself. Every great legacy, every great greatness, every great thing starts with self-awareness. And self-awareness begins by asking that one simple question. Who told you that? So thanks for spending time with me today in Legacy Builders Podcast. This episode made you think. Share it with someone who needs this reminder. Next episode, next week, we're going to be talking about even greater things and why people. We can be talking. We can be talking. But make sure you like and share. Share at Legacy Builders Podcast on Instagram, Jaheim President TV on YouTube, Legacy Builders Podcast at TikTok. And it's been a pleasure. Let's go build our legacy.